Welcome to Productive Discourse. Productive Discourse is a conversation where we talk about the positive activities that are taking place within our communities. In other words, we're constantly searching for our shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear. Today, we're continuing our conversation about the great athletes that got their starts on the playgrounds and sandlots of Oakland, California. We're talking about athletes that deliver what I call the 3 E's: energy, enthusiasm, and excellence into their passion, where many of them turned pro, won championships, some were elected to their sports halls of fame, and a great many came back and served their community. Today, we're pleased to have as our guest a Skyline High Titan, Brian Johnson. Brian graduated from Skyline High, played baseball, football, and basketball, and then went on to Stanford University, where he played baseball and football and had an 8-year major league career, including 2 spectacular years with the San Francisco Giants. Brian, welcome to Productive Discourse.
Hey, thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I appreciate you joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun today. But as we get started, the first thing I'd like to ask you how you're doing. It's been a crazy time. How's your family doing to stay happy and healthy during the pandemic?
Good. Thank God. We have avoided getting sick throughout this pandemic. We have not lost anybody that has been in our closer circle. So really been heartbreaking to watch our friends go through the suffering of losing folks, and to have our friends, encounter sickness and the different variances that we do, mild symptoms to severe symptoms to death. So just really a unique situation, as we all know, right? And just really fear for the folks that have lost people along the way. And fortunately, again, knock on wood, so far, we have been fortunate in that we have been healthy and really managed this quite well. So thank you. Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. There's a lot to be grateful right now as we get to Thanksgiving, and I hear that in your voice.
Yep.
You grew up in Oakland. Oakland is legendary when it comes to great athletes. Do you have personal stories on how you developed your passion for sports?
Yes, Oakland is unique, and it really is something that I think all of us, at least that grew up in my time, we all really make sure everybody knows we're from Oakland, right? Because Oakland's always been the kind of the little brother to San Francisco over our lifetime. And when I grew up, it really was a special time. There was so many different races mingling together, living together, loving together. So it was really, we felt, the folks that lived during my area. I graduated from high school at Skyline in 1986. And so it was kind of the 80s was our time. And, just not long after the civil rights era, the civil rights movement, the new laws that integrated, school systems and businesses and those types of things. So there was a passion that we all had for living, I felt, that I got, at least from the relationships that I had growing up. And grammar school, I'm still close to folks from grammar school and middle school and high school. And that's, I think, unique to the time. I mean, Oakland was a fantastic place of integration, of inclusion, and of sports. And directly to your question, my sports passion came from just realizing I might be a little good at this, and I like following the ball around. So anything with a bouncing ball as a young child, my parents would tell stories of that's all you cared about. If there was a ball involved, you were there. And I think there's an innate piece in there of me of competing. I think of enjoying the camaraderie of teamwork. I think of enjoying the piece of working from maybe not being that good to working and getting better along the way. And then all of a sudden, maybe being pretty good. So I really enjoy that. And I felt that sports allowed that to happen. My heroes of Oakland, California, when I was growing up, was Tim Norton, who was a quarterback at Skyline High School before me. He went on to play University of Oregon, then had a family tragedy and had to go take care of his family and the family business and cut his athletic career short, which was amazing to watch as a young kid. then there's other guys than Howard Nichols and Doobie Isles and Mike Wilhite was amazing. Went to Columbia for school as a baseball player. Jerry Stone, Mark and Steve Tanaka were big influences on me early on, as they were the recreational directors for the summertime for the baseball leagues at the Montclair Park. Montclair Park is where I played baseball and during the summer times, and was allowed to, to ride my bike down there 8 o'clock in the morning, play throughout the day, get a couple pieces of candy, play 3-5s up when I wasn't playing, and with my buddies, and then my mom would pick me up at 5:30 after she got off work. So many great memories of Oakland for me, and it really makes a really foundational piece for who I am, whatever that may be, whoever I am. It had a lot to do with Oakland, California.
Right. 3 flies up. One of the things that I'm finding as I talk to people, that our generation, whatever it was, we had a way of making up our own games. We may not have enough people to have 18 guys for a real baseball game, but we would figure something out. And there were interesting skills we developed doing that. Is that what you found in the parks?
Oh yeah, amazing idea. So yeah, I mean, 3 flies up is one, playing 500 is one, right? Where a ground ball is 25 points, a one hopper is 50 points, or one hopper is 75 points, a fly ball is 100 points, so yeah, just, great for math, number one, but also great for baseball. But yeah, and Pepper, we played Pepper a lot, and Pepper is a game that's so good for all your baseball skills. For those that don't know, it's one person with a bat. You can have 5, 3, 2, 1 person that's throwing you the ball, and basically you're playing catch. One person has a bat, one person has a glove and the ball, and you throw it to the person who's hitting, and they hit a ground ball or a one hopper to you, and that's called Pepper. If you ever see the baseball stadiums around, major league stadiums around, or minor league stadiums, there's always a sign that says "No Pepper here," and a lot of people don't know what Pepper means. So Pepper is a game that was made up long before I came along. But Pepper is a great skill building game to play for kids and whomever else. But I've been coaching off and on while I've been in baseball for 20 years. And whenever I show people Pepper or 3 flies up, the kids love it, because they don't have a chance to do that now. There's so many video games, there's so many other things that are fascinating, and nothing wrong with video games, but the old school games, kids really get a kick out no matter how old they are. So keep that in mind if you ever want to really engage a kid. They love the games once they learn them, but you got to make sure you teach them the right way.
Right. Those experiences are so important. How did all of that prepare you to play at Stanford and beyond?
One of them I would say is I learned how to be bad, right?
Right.
I think, when you first start out in anything that's new, you're not really good at it oftentimes, and then you get better and better. When I started out at Stanford, I was a 6th string quarterback, and it took me a year before I won the #1 job. When I went to the minor leagues, you're stuck in low A ball. Less than 1% of baseball players has signed a professional contract. Less than 1% will ever make it to the big leagues. And so you have to work your way up. It's an incredibly competitive time. So there were stretches where I really was terrible. And so, there were times where I wanted to give up. There was times where I was like, I feel like I'm the worst baseball player on the planet, much less in the professional level. And that's just how we work. That's how we are normally as human beings, right? And so for me, what helped was that I remember those days when I would struggle in a game or struggle for a couple games in Oakland and be competing against some of the best talent from around the whole state. In Oakland was a ton of talent. So many guys that had played in the big leagues or played in the NBA. Gary Payton played in the NBA. Greg Foster played in the NBA. A bunch of guys played in the NFL. Excuse me. And so we would compete, and we would be good friends off the court, but we would get after it on the court or on the field or in the stadium, whatever it may be. And I loved those gamesmanships, those interactions where we were fiercely competitive on the court, but off the court, we get together and hang. So that was part of my makeup. It was part of, I knew no matter how bad it got, I could always recover and always come back the next day.
Right. You mentioned Gary Payton. Did he go to Skyline about the same time you did?
I did. He did. We were classmates together. We were basketball teammates together. We actually dated sisters.
Wow.
Right. So he dated Pam Sims, who's a physician now in Oakland, is doing really well at the Children's Hospital. Erin Sims is her sister or older sister. And I dated Erin, and she went to UCLA, and our Pam went to Stanford with me and became a physician. Erin went to UCLA, also became a physician, a surgeon. And she is now also at Children's Hospital in Oakland. So
Wow.
have kept the friendships alive all these years. Haven't seen Gary in a long time, but we were all pretty close unit way back then.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So you went to Skyline High, you went to Stanford, and you had to move up the depth chart. Can you talk a little bit about your experience at Stanford?
Yeah. And it's funny because I like to tell the stories about when I wasn't very good. So, because that's kind of what I've always taught my kids, right? It's hard sometimes for kids to come in the shadows of their Major League Baseball or professional sports parents, whoever that may be. So I'm really well versed in remembering all the bad times, and I felt like that would take a lot of the pressure off my kids as they became athletes, because it's difficult. Sports is not easy. And so I've always told them about my struggles. I always told them much more about my bad times, because other people tend to tell them about my good times. And
right.
And so anyway, so I thought that was good. I feel like it allowed me as a parent to allow the kids a healthy space to fail, to struggle, to succeed, to think about whether you really want to do this or not. So, but specific to your point, I think at Stanford, it was really the best lesson for me at Stanford was I flunked the first class that I took. It was a humanities class, and I just didn't really put a whole lot of time in. I'm playing two sports. I'm excited about playing sports, but I didn't really get as excited about my schoolwork. And so so I got a tutor, and she was fantastic. And she's a real nice lady, or girl at that time. And but you never know. You better make sure you treat everybody well, because you never know what may happen. Quick into a longer story is that I ended up getting a B in the class, which I was grateful for her. But it turned out later on, when I got traded to the San Francisco Giants, Peter McGowan's daughter, the owner of the Giants, Peter McGowan's daughter was the tutor that I had as a freshman at Stanford.
No kidding.
So, I was so grateful that she had nice things to say about me, because you never know. And so just funny how small the world is sometimes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, you talked a little bit about your struggles, but at Stanford, you became the starting quarterback. There was a Gator Bowl, and then in baseball, there were 2 College World Series championships. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so the Gator Bowl, number one, I didn't play in it. I was a redshirt freshman. John Pay and Greg Ennis were our 2 quarterbacks during that time. And it was great to be learn a lot from John Pay, watching him do his thing every day. And I think John is still in the Bay Area these days, working in real estate. But John Pay was a great quarterback, great guy. And really enjoyed watching that first year. Eddie McCaffrey was one of our wide receivers, who he and I came in at the same time, and he went on to have a great NFL career. So the Gator Bowl was really great for me, even though I didn't get to play. It was really cool to see the glitz and the glamour of a bowl game, and the intensity of a bowl game, the speed of a bowl game. Excuse me. And then also, I forgot I mentioned this, another struggle during my Stanford baseball days. So I come in, little unbeknownst to me, we would win the national championship my freshman year and my sophomore year. So we won it back-to-back. The only time Stanford baseball has won the national championship, still to this day, unfortunately. But I think Coach Esker is going to get a championship here pretty soon. But when I came on board in spring, so I was the #1 recruit in the nation for baseball. And so I came in as the #1 recruit to the baseball team, but I was playing football, I was playing quarterback. And so I had to be in football during the fall. And so when I come out in the spring for baseball, all the spots really had been tied up, right? So all the positions were pretty much taken by the time I got there in the spring. And so there wasn't a spot for me. They didn't have, I'd been drafted as a catcher, but we had plenty of catching, didn't need me there. And so Coach Marquis, who has since retired, he asked me if I could play right field. I was like, oh yeah, I can play right field, no problem. Sure, I've done that a whole bunch. And he's like, okay. So I played quite a bit there in the outfield. But I had never played outfield in my life. I had barely caught a fly ball in the outfield before in an actual game. So I had to lie a little bit, but really that kind of catapulted me to be able to help out that team a little bit. And then my second year, when we won the second World Series, I was able to help out more by backing up and playing 7 different positions for our national championship team that year. So,
Wow.
So it was a fun experience, but definitely started on the lower end to begin with.
Right. So when you graduated, what made you go to baseball rather than football?
Good question. I kind of looked at, let me see if my picture here is a little off. Okay, that's a little better. Okay. So let's see. Dennis Green was my head coach. So I had really interesting football staff. Dennis Green was my head coach. Ron Turner, who was a longtime offensive coordinator in the NFL. Norv Turner is his brother. Ron Turner was an offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears for a long time. Tyrone Willingham was my running backs coach. Brian Billick, who would go on to be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens as they won their Super Bowl, their first Super Bowl. He was our wide receivers coach. Let's see, who else was there? David Shaw, head coach at Stanford for a long time now, had a great career there. His father, Willie Shaw, was our defensive coordinator there. And Fred Von Appen was a longtime 49ers defensive coordinator. He was also one of our defensive coaches. So we had an amazing coaching staff when I was there from the football side. So when I was trying to decide, I went to Coach Green, had a conversation with him, went to Coach Marquis. And in the end, I felt that football was a little on the shorter side. I'm barely 6'2". I really needed a West Coast offense or something that would really be conducive to my skill set. I could move around the pocket, but I wasn't going to outrun anybody. And I could make any throw that I could, but you got tall offensive linemen. Sometimes it's hard to look over them. So we didn't have the spread offenses that we have today. So I kind of felt like, okay, I really would love to give the NFL a try, but I'd have to have the right system. In baseball, however, I felt like size-wise as a catcher, I was much on the larger end for catchers, and I could hit. And a catcher that could hit, that automatically catapulted me to a different category in baseball. And I felt like I could dominate the game right now. I didn't need a system. I didn't need a special circumstances. I could dominate right now. And so that's why I felt like the best move for me was to be in baseball.
Good. Well, the San Francisco Giants and all the fans are pleased you chose baseball. And I mean, with all the monumental things that you were involved with, you've actually got a Giant game named after you, the Brian Johnson game.
Yeah.
And there are 2 things that happened in that game that are just fresh in everybody's mind. There's a double play, or there's getting out of a bases loaded, nobody out situation.
That's right.
Rod Beck was on the mound and the Dodgers loaded the bases. And then there's your walk-off home run into the wind.
Yeah.
I heard you on an interview a couple years ago. I listened to KMBR a lot. And you talked about a mound visit when Dusty Baker came out and the bases were loaded, nobody out. That was a game the Giants had to win. And you told a story about how you calmed everything down. And can you talk a little bit about that now?
Yeah, sure. I've gotten a lot of feedback from that part of the story that I told. So yeah, happy to share it again. So for those people that aren't familiar with the situation, it was tied 5-5 late in the game, bases loaded, nobody out. Rod Beck had come into the game. He used to be a great closer. Now he's kind of on the latter stages of his career. Doesn't have his great stuff. The fans were booing Rod, understandably so. You kind of get immediate feedback from fans, right? Whether you're going good or whether you're going bad, they'll let you know, which is, that's part of the relationship. But Rod was, brought in a difficult situation, bases loaded, nobody out against the Dodgers. Piazza, Mondesi, Eric Karros, all these guys that have been rookies of the year and been all pros or, great ball players and great hitters. So it's a tough situation. Put it in a synopsis, a tough situation. Dusty comes out to the mound. Our manager, Dusty Baker, comes out to the mound. Bases loaded, nobody out. Tie score, 5-5. Must win game. We have to win this game in order to keep pace with possibly winning the division. And the Dodgers had won the division a bunch of times. We hadn't won the division in like 13 years. So we were completely the underdog here. So 52,000 people at Candlestick Park, the old Candlestick Park. Everybody's a day game. Everybody's getting excited. So Dusty comes out to the mound. And basically, he's concerned about Rod's mental state. He's concerned about Rod's confidence. So he's like, hey, man, look, you're our guy. You're going to do it. I'm behind you. We're all behind you. Go, kick them kick their behinds type of thing. And so Dusty's finishes his pep talk, which he's fantastic at doing, as really, making people feel encouraged and confident. But then he leaves. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, instantaneous. I'm like, is that it, Dusty? Is that all you got? You got, we could use a little guidance here. But so then my mind just kicked into gear. I was like, okay, I'll take care of this. And so Shooter was Rod's nickname. He looks at me. He's like, what do you want to do, B? I said, well, here's how it's going to work. This is how it's going to go down. So we're going to start off Zeal with a slider. Then we're going to throw a little split away. And then we're going to freeze him on a fastball inside for strike 3. Then we're going to get Eddie Murray coming up because Eddie was in the on-deck circle. I said, we're going to get Eddie up here. We're going to throw him a split to begin with. He's going to roll it over to Jeff Kent. And then we're going to get out of here in a double play, and then we'll be done. How's that sound to you? And he looked at me, kind of sheepishly looked up. He's like, that sounds pretty good. And so we said, okay, cool, let's do it. So let me pause the action here. So I would do this quite often. This is one of my, I took a lot of pride in being a catcher. Sometimes being a hitting catcher, you don't get a lot of credit for being a catcher, a good catcher in different ways. Calling the game and really helping work with my 12-person pitching staff was really something I took a lot of pride in. I really enjoyed the most. It was what I enjoyed the most out of all of the baseball responsibilities I had. But anyway, so I would always describe a scenario that was a positive ending to whatever trouble my pitcher would be in. I would always do that. Mm-hmm. However, it never came about. It never turned out the way I described it, but it doesn't matter. My point was to focus on short-term success and be able to focus on executing pitches for my pitcher, working one guy at a time, and then just focus on the small things. Just execute the small thing and we can get big benefits from it. So I would always describe the scenario, but it never came to fruition except this day. On this day, it came through exactly the way I described it. And so sure enough, we got Todd Zeal frozen on a fastball inside because he would stand right on the plate. He's like 6'3", 6'4", so he was susceptible to that. Eddie Murray came up with a Hall of Fame player, coming off the bench after sitting for 9 innings, and he's probably about 38, 39 years old. He doesn't move real well. Rolling over a ground ball to JK or Jeff Kent, our second baseman. I was at home plate. I had good footing. I thought Mike Piazza was going to take me out. He was coming down from third base. I thought he was going to take my legs out and not let me finish the throw, but he didn't. So we were able to get rid of the ball quick enough to get Eddie down the line. Double play happened, and then we came up and would win the game later. So that's my story.
Well, when we exchanged emails and texts, I mentioned that I remember my circumstances. Uh-huh. And my circumstances are, I'm a sales guy and I'm making sales calls.
Okay.
So I'm listening to the game and I'm in downtown Oakland, actually Chinatown.
Okay.
And I've got a customer to call on and I'm in a parking lot and I'm listening and the bases get loaded and I can't take it. So I go in and make the call and I come out and the game's still going on.
Oh.
And I'm saying, it's got to be pretty good because the game's still going on.
So there's no Twitter, there's no social media, so you didn't know what had happened, right?
Right. If there was that, I'd have had my phone and I'd be in the waiting room of my call. So then it's about 2 miles away from my house. So that's my last call of the day.
Okay.
As I'm driving home, I'll let you talk about it, but you hit the home run.
Okay.
And I hear that, I hear Robinson make the call.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Ted Robinson, absolutely.
Right. My son's 10 years old and he's as sick as I am when it comes to baseball. But I get in the house and I can't say anything because him and my wife have this homework routine.
Uh-huh.
So they're at the kitchen table and Brian Johnson just hit a home run, but I can't talk about it because that'll just mess up the mood. Right. So it was just a wild day, but could you walk us through the home run?
Yeah, sure. So 12th inning, We were exhausted. You know, the Dodgers, we had jumped out to like a 5-1 lead. The Dodgers had come back. Eric Karros hit a ball that should have been a home run earlier in the game, but it got knocked down by the wind that you mentioned before. The wind was, you know, as it always does, a candlestick, right? It was blowing hard. I never called it 3-count. It was always Candlestick Park for me. And so, yeah, it was honestly probably one of the best games I was ever a part of in my life. Just back and forth, defense, offense, stolen base, pitching, strategy from managers, everything you could imagine was there. It's a day game. San Francisco Giants, Los Angeles Dodgers, meaningful late September game, 52,000 people just enjoying themselves to death. And we were enjoying ourselves as well. So 12th inning, we had, so I'm going to be leading off. My goal is just to get on base. My goal is I was a line drive guy. So I like to hit line drives. I like to use the whole field. So my thing is just hit a double and let somebody else hit me in, and we'll be good to go. And so I'm getting up to the plate, and I was a very aggressive hitter. I would be ready to hit. I would swing it. I'm happy to swing at a pitch from the on deck circle if you could. I was ready to hit. Once I stepped on the field, I was ready to hit. So I didn't need to take a pitch. I didn't need to wait and see what the guy's doing and gauge everything. No, that's what 6 months of working in the offseason has been doing. That's why I get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to work off the tee. That makes me ready to go once the game starts. So I'm ready once the game starts. Anyway, 12th inning, I'm ready to go. I know they brought in a reliever. I didn't pay attention to who it was. I didn't care who it was. I had no problem hitting left-handers or right-handers. As it turned out later, Mark Guthrie was the reliever, left-handed guy. Apparently, he had got me out 3 times before. I think I was 0 for 3 on him when someone had told me later, but whatever. I didn't care. So I went 0 for 3. That means I'm probably going to go 4 for 6 for the next 6 times I face him. Mm-hmm. That was my mentality. So I come up. He throws me a fastball over the plate. I put a good swing on it. My first couple of steps out of the box, I'm like, okay, I got that good. But as the third and fourth step comes out, I'm like, that might get out of here. That might have a chance. So by the time I hit the bag, I realize it's gone. So once I hit the bag, I realize it's gone. Instantaneously, the crowd roars, but all of a sudden, the synthesizer in my head, I don't know how God put us together, but he turned down the synthesizer of the noise. So when I rounded the bases, I could not hear a single crowd noise. It was like a muffled screaming that I could hear that was like off in the distance. But when I was running around the bases, I could hear the pitter-pat of my feet on the dirt and hitting the bag around. That's all I heard going around the bases. It was like my age here, right? The boy in the plastic bubble with John Travolta. That's right. What I think of when I look back on it. But anyway, so I come around the home plate. Everybody at home plate is getting ready to mob me. And as I hit home plate, all the sound comes back. The synthesizer is no longer in play. All the sound comes back, and we just party and have a good time. And that was it. That was my moment of glory. It was funny because a lot of people bring that up because the Brian Johnson game and so forth and so on, which is great. I love every minute of it. But in my career, I had 11 different times where I had walk-off hits on the professional level, 6 different times at the major league level, and 4 of them were home runs. So really proud of all the moments that made up my career. And I have no problem just talking about this one at all.
Well, you get one against the Dodgers, and that lives forever.
It has taken on a life of its own. It sure has. And I feel like I've met probably all 52,000 people that were at that game. It gets brought up so much with me. I get letters about it still. I get people that come up to me when I'm in the Bay Area. So it was a blessing. It was a split second in time. I'm so grateful that people remember that, and not maybe, if I was in a perp walk or I got in trouble for something, or, thank goodness so far, I don't think I've gotten in trouble for anything, but that's been a really blessing on my life that has really been something I'm very appreciative of.
Yeah. Well, that's terrific. So you've had some great experiences on the field and great experiences off the field. What's on your bucket list now?
Well, so my wife and I, we've been together for 30 years.
Wow.
We were college sweethearts at Stanford, and she's a physician here in Michigan. So our kids are both in college now. My son's playing baseball at the college level at a college in Maryland called Allegheny College, and my daughter is at Michigan State University. So we are empty nesters for the first time. So
Wow.
we dated for probably 12 years before we had kids. So there's a whole lot of experience we have on just being the two of us. So we are excited about, we call it Johnson 2.0. So this is the next phase of our relationship. So we're going to do some traveling. We like to go to France. We like to go to Egypt and do some of those things, just the two of us. She's my favorite partner for playing golf. So we like to kind of play golf in all those different places that we go to. So we have a good time on the golf course, and we're looking forward to combining those two together.
Did you ever, when you were around here, did you ever play golf at the Alameda Golf Course?
No, I don't think I've ever played Alameda.
Okay.
I feel like I played most other courses around the Bay, but not that one.
Yeah. Well, it's actually called Chuck-A-Reka, but they, over the last 3 or 4 years, they completely revamped it.
Oh.
And one of the most famous designers in the world, Reese Jones, oversaw it. And if you ever get out here, it's still a public course.
Oh, wow.
It's absolutely beautiful. There's 2 of them. There's a north course and a south course.
Oh, I'd love to play that. Okay.
If you ever get out here, that's a good place to play.
Okay.
And
Good to know. Appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. No problem. So I really, it sounds like you've got a lot going. I really appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, you've got a lot of things going. You're doing a lot of work with social justice. You're doing a lot of work with coaching. You're starting a website. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So let's see. So I've been a coach off and on, throughout the time my kids have been growing up. I've coached basketball at the high school level for 7 years because I was a scout for the San Francisco Giants for 10 years. So whenever I was a scout, I was always gone during baseball season. So I didn't have a chance to really coach baseball other than just show up and assist somebody else. But basketball, I could really give a lot of time to. So that was fun. I've done that. Now since I'm no longer, I played Major League Baseball for 8 years in the major leagues, but 12 years overall in professional baseball. Then I was 10 years as a Major League scout for the Giants. So 22 years in Major League Baseball in total, and loved it. And I'm just grateful for all the time, but I have zero desire to ever go back because it's just a different game now. It's time for other folks to be able to have an opportunity to be a part of baseball like I was. So I'm happy to stay out of it. So what it's allowed me to do is a lot of other things that I enjoy. One is coaching baseball. So I'm a high school baseball coach at a small Christian school here where both my kids went to school. An awful program that really has been neglected for a long time. So it's really fun to be able to build it up from the ground up. Great kids, but just a neglected program. So being able to do that is great. I have a partner that is my assistant coach. He has a son as well that plays college ball. So we started also a collegiate summer league. So we had 75 players each summer that had come from 26 different colleges. And we put on 45 different games in the league and a little playoff system for them. Because oftentimes college baseball players, when you're going to school, you're school full-time, you're playing baseball, which is like a full-time job. You don't have a chance to hang out with your girlfriend too much. You don't have a chance to really get a job and to earn some money. So we try to allow them, by the way we structure our collegiate summer league, to allow those players to do that. So in addition to that, I do, on the baseball front, I do some professional development for college coaches. I devised a strategy as to how to win baseball games. So I teach pitchers and catchers and pitching coaches and managers how to call a game and the design behind of it. So it's kind of elaborate, but very simple at the same time. So I learned that when I was playing, and it was kind of one of my niche, one of my little tools that I had in my tool belt. I taught a class for the Giants, for the minor leaguers, pitchers and catchers. So during our World Series days, I was a part of all 3 of the World Series championships with the Giants in 2010, 12, and 14. So I teach that class for select college programs that are interested. It's a great thing to help programs move forward and kind of get over the hump a lot of times and really get the best out of your pitching staff. So I'm also writing a book that is is essentially the class that I teach. It is the book. So it's called Creating Space.
Creating Space.
It's a strategy as to how to win baseball games. Because so much about baseball today is about, exit velocity and how hard a guy swings, how hard a guy pitches, the spin rate on breaking balls and all that, which is fine. No problem with that at all. But oftentimes we lose focus on how to win games. And that's really what came to me, is that I love to win. Winning and the whole process of winning is a big deal for me. So that's the baseball part. The book hopefully will be done in about a year. The website will hopefully be done in about a similar amount of time. But I'm still working. I have bills to pay and all that. But I've been a part. Let's see, my rookie year in the major leagues, we had a strike, 1994, and so I went to work for a small diversity firm out of Chicago, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion. And so what we do is we help help companies, government agencies, any type of industry, really. We help them be more inclusive, right? Hire better talent, hire more diverse talent, be able to utilize that talent, make sure that not only that they show up, but they're also an integral part of what you're doing. So we help them, help companies evaluate their internal processes, really coach them as to how to become more efficient in the human capital that they have for an organization. So, but I started that way back my rookie year during the strike. And so that little firm that started out of one of my best friends' mother's living room has now grown into, 30 years later, this firm that I'm a part of called the Kaleidoscope Group. And again, we're based out of Chicago. We work internationally. We worked with over 1,000 different companies in 30 years. So I managed like about 12 different clients and try to execute the contract that we sign with them. Hopefully under budget, but hopefully under time, right? So I do that. So we deal with racial issues, sexual harassment. We deal with LGBTQ plus issues and that community, as well as many other communities, Latinos, Asian community, white community, Black community. We deal with everybody and really try to get really focus on bringing everybody together and working well together as one. So I am a diversity consultant. It's kind of a vague term, but I teach as well as run the business portion for my 12 different clients. Wow. So that's me. That's the both baseball stuff and life stuff. I really enjoy both of them. Really this work, especially in 2021, this work of really trying to fight against racism, fight against homophobia, try to fight against bigotry is a fight that I've been fighting against since I was like 10 years old. And so this is just a formal way for me to have an avenue to fight that every day. So I love it. It's my one greatest job I always wanted to have was to be a Major League Baseball player. This was my second favorite job. So I really enjoy it, really love it, and have enjoyed my time here today with you. I apologize for never getting a simple 2-word answer for any questions. So be careful asking me questions. I'll give you a full answer.
Oh, well, that's terrific. I think everybody enjoyed how open you are, and you're really making a difference, and it's much appreciated. So thank you for what you're doing out there to make the world a better place.
Thank you so much, sir. Great being here. I appreciate you reaching out to me and asking me to come. I appreciate the invitation, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Well, thank you. Now, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they contact you? Is there a website or a email?
Yeah, right now, just the email address is good for me. Brian Johnson 6679 @gmail.com. Real easy. Brian Johnson 6679 @gmail.com. Okay. Right. You gotta, for us with common names, we got to put some numbers at the end on Gmail, right? There's no opportunity for me to get a real one.
Right. Well, I will put that in the show notes, okay, and it'll be available. But I appreciate you being on. We talked about the 3 E's, and you have an abundance of those: energy, enthusiasm, and excellence. And it just came to me today that you've got a set of spectacular S's also: Skyline High, Stanford University, and the San Francisco Giants.
There you go. So I like it.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, I think that works. But I appreciate you being on the show today. And Brian and I appreciate everybody who watched and listened. If you'd like to know more about what we do, please go to productivediscourse.home.blog. productivediscourse.home.blog. It gives great information about all of our activities and how you can contact me if you'd like me to speak at your service club, community organization, your religious group, or your Toastmasters club. Now, we're going to be back again next week, and we're going to talk about another great athlete from Oakland, California, and that's going to be baseball and football star Jackie Jensen. So tune in next week. But in the meantime, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so this message will go far and wide, and we'll find that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear.